The Morris Bofors C9B, this is a late version, was actually a modified Morris C8 field artillery tractor, slightly extended and mounting a 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft gun. It came into service just in time for D-Day. It saw action in both Europe and the Pacific, and nearly 1,700 of them were manufactured. Now Thunder Models have made a 1:35 scale model of it. Welcome to First Impressions. And welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and yes, Thunder Models Morris Bofors C9B late. It's hot off the press. This is hitting the shops now. You can just about order it. Probably been on the shops about a week as I record this. So this is Thunder Models Kit 35209. It's their latest release. It's my third Thunder Models kit. I've got a Scammell and I've got a Hetzer, and I have totally enjoyed both of those kits when we've come to look at them, so I'm expecting no less of this new release. So let's take a look at what we get in the box. Well, for a start with, we've got a lovely glossy box there. It's got a nice bit of artwork showing it in action. Actually, the crew you see there, 3 people, is the full complement of crew that was used to man the gun. See another vehicle in the background there. If we look on the sides, we get some information that tells us about the contents. 565 plastic parts on 13 sprues, clear parts, resin cast wheels, photo etched detail sheet, 2 marking option decals with instrument placards, ammo box markings, accurately reproduced to the highest detail standard. Gun and turntable can be assembled in any position. Doesn't say it's movable though. Vehicle supports can be assembled in travelling or firing position. Glue and paint's not included, so that all sounds good to start with. The ends just emulate what we've got on the top. Yep, and then we've got a little bit of history, which is almost word for word what you'll find on the online tank museum, so I'm guessing that's where they got it from. Side of the box we've got coming soon, so this is interesting. We've got a US Army A1A1. We've got a German steam locomotive. That's interesting. A Canadian trailer, a Canadian LRD truck, and a Canadian C8 heavy utility. So, interesting kits coming. Take a look, see what we get inside. So, it's a nice, sturdy, corrugated box, and with the lid folding in, you get extra protection at the sides. So, it's quite a sturdy old box, to be honest. And as we open it, we get our paint and decal markings. It's a nice glossy quality field sheet referencing ammo paints there. We'll have a closer look at that in a minute. Then we've got corrections. Seems to be a fair number of them. There's a whole A4 sheet of them. Okay, we'll have a look at that in a minute as well. Then we've got our resin parts, lots of sprues, and then at the bottom somewhere is the instructions. Let me carefully take all this out and then we can have a look at the instructions. But my first observation is that box is packed and most of that is not going anywhere. So it's a nicely done packaging. Right, let's start with our instructions. We've got an A4 portrait instruction manual that is stapled. It's, I guess I'm going to say semi-gloss. It's neither shiny nor matte. And on the front there, we've got what appears to be probably a CAD image of the model. We've got tells you what it is there, and it says go through this assembly guide and understand it before you start kit assembly. Use usual plastic kit cement and tools not included. Follow painting guide supplied. Use only hobby paints. Okay, work carefully with photo etch parts if included, and use CA glue to assemble them. Okay, then we've got our key, which appears to be in 3 different languages. Yeah, okay, that all makes sense. Then as we open it up, we're actually straight into the build. So there's no sprue map or anything. Let me just have a look on the back. There's a sprue map on the back. So as you can see, we've got our images, 1, 2, 3, 4 photo etch frets, not the one that's mentioned on the box, clear parts, and then our plastic parts going over 1 and a bit pages, and we can see actually from there that we're on 31 steps. So we now go to landscape on the inside, which is going to be a little bit harder for my camera, so we will have to try and do it 1 page at a time is the best way forward, which will just slow things down a little bit, but there we go. Right, so we start step 1. I'll be dividing this up. I can tell you this now. Step 1 is all of that. Well, I'm going to break that down into all sorts of different sub-assemblies. So first thing I'm going to do with these instructions is divide them up, renumber them, and possibly resequence them. But as you can see here, there, step 1 is build the entirety of the engine. So that's lots of different parts, no doubt some different colours in there, different shades, weathering. There's a lot to do just in step 1. I mean, the engine block is 5 pieces, so yeah, loads here to do. If indeed you're going to show the engine partly exposed. So yeah, when I have the engine partly exposed, it's usually because the vehicle's in some form of distress. It's ditched, or you know, or something like that, or the crew has deliberately damaged it to stop it being used if captured, something like that. So that's why generally I don't show the engines, because I have them closed up. But I think the detail level on this engine, if the plastic follows the CAD drawings, it warrants being able to see that. I think there's lots of detail in there, isn't there? So yeah, that should be nice. Then in step 2, we're putting the basic chassis together around the engine block. Step 3, more chassis parts. As we flip her over, we can see we're mounting the engine block onto this other chassis that we built in, telling you there, step 2, step 3, nice and clear. I like that. Then we're building up what I take is the axle. We've got leaf spring suspension being added. And you can see that it says things like, says step, right, so step 4. So these light coloured numbers are previous steps. So you don't think, where's the parts for all those? And then we're building up what I guess is the rear axle. From the 2 axles there, they don't have, we're building those up, but they don't have step numbers. So again, that doesn't have a step number. So again, another reason to rename it, because they're treating them as sub-assemblies and therefore not numbering them. So I think you need to do some work on setting out the instructions a bit more clearly. Step 7, and we've now gone to portrait. Okay. I guess that's because they needed to put the chassis in, don't know. But we've got some close-up, blown-up pictures of smaller parts being assembled and going in, which is nice. We've got some photo etch straps going in, all sorts of various rods and levers. All look very nicely detailed. If the plastic looks like the drawings, it's going to be phenomenal. And we've got the drive shaft going in, some mounting brackets for what I guess is going on top of it. Flipper over, exhaust system going on, and then we're starting to build up the cab. So we can see here the mud guards, the firewall for the engine, which by the looks of it has got the dash moulded in on the other side. Appears to be lots of rivet detail, fastener detail, so that will be lovely. Then we've got the seats going in, which looks like we have a folded option as well, for that one at least. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, it looks like you can have them folded or you can have them up. That is really interesting. Cool. I guess when it was in firing position, there might have been a benefit to dropping them. I don't know. But yeah, and that's really cool that you can set the seats in either position. I love that. Step 15, and we've got some form of lever going on there. I'm guessing it's perhaps the handbrake or something to do with, I'm guessing it was four-wheel drive, something to do with that maybe. And then that cab is being mounted on there with some additional brackets. Then we've got the steering pinion going in, what looks like the air filter. Okay, yeah. Building up the radiator, hose pipe, cap separate. Fan, I think that's CA. I think that means that's also photo etch. Where's our little key? Oh no, cyanide glue. Oh yeah, PE3 is photo etch. So a photo etch fan, that's a nice touch as well. And then we've got the bonnet going on and the engine sides, and it says here on A11, sand thin wall inside for steering rod. So basically they've designed the part wrong and they need you to thin it out to make it fit. That's what they're effectively saying there. Then you've got step 12, which I'm not quite sure what that is that they're building up. Oh, that looks like the mount for the gun. That's the mount for the gun there, yeah. And building up the back structure, the main body. We've got some Pioneer tools going in there, shovels. And all the little fasteners to hold them down. That's really nice. Looking like there is quite a bit of photo etch in that section there. Yeah, very nice. And then we're mounting that on as well. Step 17, building up the back end. Some bits to modify. I guess that's because the sprue's used in different versions. And some storage boxes being built up. I'm guessing they're the ammunition boxes, which have their own sets of decals and stuff. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Then we've got the vehicle storage boxes. Fuel tank, which again has PE parts involved, so that's cool. Then we've got some more storage by the looks of it going underneath the cab. Bumper, it's telling us to fill the parts on the top, so obviously again for a different kit, but yeah, filling the parts. Okay, and then these strange bucket looking things are actually the stabilizers for when the gun's in action, so they fold down and stabilize the vehicle. And we've got headlamps going in as well. Cut rods and reattach in resting position if cones used for firing. Right, okay. So you have to do a modification if you're putting them in the firing position. Step 22, and we're back to landscape. And we're building up these side cones here. These are the ones that come out the side of the vehicle, and you can see that they've got a concertina on them so that you can extend them, a bit like a car jack, I guess. So it's showing you building them up, then fitting them, and you can have them swung out or swung in and stowed, depending on whether you're having it firing or in transport. And then we're doing the same at the front there. Okay. Then back to portrait, we've got some form of platform, I'm guessing going around the gun. What clearly looks like the gun, gun being built up there, the Bofors. Oh, it looks like we have a nice separate spring. That'll be interesting to see. Back to landscape. So building the gun up, mounting it on its platform. Then we've got more parts to build up around it. Quite a lot of parts, separate parts on here. Very, very detailed. All sorts of bits and pieces that I have no clue what they are, but they all look like they've got lots of fasteners on them and lots of detail. So it's going to look great under a wash. Then what have we got? Looks like the front armour plates there. Some form of mechanism, sighting mechanism maybe, being put together. Clearly a C, ammunition clips. They give you a template there for folding the photo etch. That's interesting. That will be interesting. And then a couple of handles, I'm guessing for moving the gun. Then as we flip over, step 29, we've got more photo etch and mounting the gun barrel. Some form of sliding mechanism, not quite sure. All sorts of little pieces going on, brackets and bits and pieces, hooks and the like. Photo etch rear plate there, so mud flaps and things are all going to be nicely scaled because the photo etch, this is looking really nice indeed. This is fuel cans then, and a fuel can rack. Mounting the gun on, then we've got a little end piece for the gun, and what looks like a spare gun barrel, I think. And then a cover for the ammunition clip. So you could show that off if you wanted. So if the vehicle was distressed, you've got loads of options here for having bits open and what have you. This is a very cool kit. Then we're adding the resin wheels and the nuts. I'm not sure that I will put the wheels and hubs on right at the end. I might do that before I mount the gun and the like, and then we're on the sprue map. So that is our instructions. They look very busy, they look very detailed, certainly. I think you need to go through with a ruler and a pencil and break it all up and make a bit of sense of it before you start. Understand what you're doing. There's definitely a lot of sub-assemblies can be built up before you do a final build, I think. Now, we have quite a sizable corrections sheet, and it says corrected numbers in assembly steps in bold. So step 5, and then you've got sub-assemblies that were not numbered anyway. So there's stuff around the cab, and the drive shaft, and then these stabilizers, and the gun platform. So there's a few little bits that you need to just cross-reference. So it's probably worth putting a letter against each one of those and then writing that letter into the instructions so you know you've got something else to refer to. And we've got our paint instructions, and these are interesting because we've got two, and I can't see the difference between either of them, except for one has a textured background and one has a white background. But they're both saying Italy 1944 1st Infantry Division. And you've got, at the top you've got MIG ammo paint colours, and then at the bottom you've got weathering steps with ammo products. So wash, filter, grease, dust, mud and mud splashes. So both of these are exactly the same. You can see we've got lots of different decals here for the ammunition boxes, yeah, we're calling. Are we calling out? Don't know what those numbers are. The paints. Yep, satin black, but not quite sure what that's pointing to. Yeah, okay. But it's not telling us what the... You can see the decals, but there's no reference to the decals numbers, so that's a little confusing. Instructions here could be better. If I turn it over, then we've got painting guide for 1944 Northwest Europe, 119th Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment, 15th Scottish Infantry Division. So you can see you've got a slightly different camouflage and markings layout. So you're going to have to look at the pictures to establish which decals you're using. Not that I've seen the decals yet. And then on the back of this one we have, yeah, exactly the same again, only they didn't quite finish the print off. Most odd. I wonder if they printed them, realised there was a printing error, so had some more printed, left that one in the box and added that one in. That's pretty much what it feels like, to be honest. I think that is what you should have got, and I think that's a faulty run, I guess. Okay, our decals next, and they feel a bit thick and chunky, to be honest, and there is certainly a lot of decal film around some of them, and they will definitely have to be trimmed before you put them in place, especially that, which, you know, the colour of it just about fits the plate. And actually, I'm not even sure, unless it lightens up when you take it off this blue mounting paper. That should be a nice bright yellow, and it's sort of a mushy pea green. So I'm not sure that I like the colour of those, unless they change when you lift them off. But there's certainly plenty of decals for a vehicle. We've got the dials, we've got the markings. They've given them all numbers and letters, but they're not really referenced on the instructions, so it's a little bit meaningless. Our photo etch. Now, this is perhaps a bit misleading in the instructions. I had to have a look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, but those two are actually the same, and in reality, you get 1, 2, 3. So I don't know why they've done that, but it looks to be the same, but they wanted you to see the parts better or something. I am not quite sure. It's not a good image of the photo etch anyway. But what we've got is 3 pieces of photo etch. That one seems to be brass. These two seem to be some form of alloy, which suggests maybe made by 2 different manufacturers. Don't know. Feels fairly thin. Yeah, you can see that some of these larger parts are actually curling. Can you see that? Put it that way, you can see it's actually curling, and this is curling here. This, not so much. They are protected by a plastic coating, which I'm still not sure I like them being coated, but anyway. And then you've got this. Some of these are going to need flattening before they're used. But there's some nice detail parts there, including our little gun targets and clips for the ammunition boxes. And that's our bonnet, which we'll definitely have to deal with because it is quite curly. But yeah, that's our photo etcher. Plenty of photo etch to go at, but not tons and tons of it, so all good. Some copper alloy. It's not proper copper, whatever it is. Wire. I didn't see that being used in the instructions, so I must have missed it. I don't know what that's used for, but we have it. So that's our metal part. Clear parts now, or what I should really call our foggy parts. They're not very clear at all. They remind me of clear resin parts, to be honest, rather than ejection molded. But we've got the lamps, so they'll get painted at the back there, so they'll look all right. The headlamps, though, aren't very clear at all. We might see if they look a bit scuffed somehow. Might see if we can polish them up a little bit. Or maybe we'll give them a coat of road film and that'll hide it. Don't know. Right, let's look at these resin wheels next. So they come in a little Ziploc bag. And we've got 5 of them there, so clearly just one spare carried. Well, slightly different colours for some reason. But what we've got is we've got a really nice tread pattern with the little side tread detail. That is very nicely done. And that's clearly the back of the hub there. The casting block is connected on the centre of the tread, so that's going to make cleanup of the tyre really easy. And then we've got our hub there, which has got bolt detail on, and we've also got writing on the sidewall. You can see the word Dunlop there and some numbers. That all looks pretty awesome, and yeah, they're all the same. So yeah, very, very nice. Nothing wrong with those. Resin wheels and tyres are always a great improvement on getting the rubber tyres and stuff, and they'll look great under paint, and you can weather them, and yeah, it's just a lot easier than the vinyl tyres. Right, the plastic parts now. I will take some photographs, so at the end of the video after the summary you'll see some close-up photographs and get a better look of the detail. They all come in heat-sealed bags. Some of them are on their own, but where you've got the same sprue in multiple numbers, they appear to have put them all in one bag. So I'm pretty sure that all of these are the same, but we will just check. Yes, they're all the same. So we get 4 of these. So this is sprue H, and we can see we've got the ammunition boxes there, and I have to say they do look authentically like pressed steel boxes, which they would have been. So they should go together nicely. I'm guessing you could probably modify them to have them open if you wished, but it doesn't look like it's an intended option. Then we've got this foot here. We've got the ammunition for the ammunition clip that we saw you have to make out of photo etch. Then we've got the 2 positions for the foot, folded or extended. We've got wing nuts there, all sorts of tiny little details. The end of the tank, is that for the fuel tank? Not sure. We've got a seat. Now the back of the seat's got ejector pin marks, so you will need to sort that because the seat can be up or folded, and either way you're going to see those. So they are recessed, so you'll have to sort that. And we've also got them in the bottom of the seat. But the parts are nice and crisp. I'm not seeing any sink, and there's certainly no flash. So yeah, that's a nice sprue of parts. Sprue B, and we have all sorts of parts here which go on the chassis. So they don't appear to be grouped in build sequence. So we've got the radiator there, the fuel tank there, the bumper there, suspension arms there, and then we've got what I think is the mounting points for the engine and the exhaust. So they're all being constructed at different times in the construction of the model. It's certainly broken down into a lot of parts. We can see lots of individual parts so that they can mold them with more detail and not have to worry about the molding process limitations. So that's really nice. We've got, I mean, there's no way of knowing what a lot of these parts are because they're parts of a part, if you like. But the leaf spring suspension is nice. It's not overly done. You often get big grooves in it and it just doesn't look right, but this looks really authentic. You can hardly see the grooves, but I can certainly feel them, and under a wash they'll appear nicely. Nice bolt detail on the bumper there, and you've got it on the back as well. Yeah, there's detail on both sides. And the grille is nicely done. Now, some people might have liked to have seen maybe a photo etch grille. Don't know, it makes a big difference. It's very, very fine. Under a wash, that'll look fantastic. Yeah, very, very nice. Sprue C, we've got the engine components here. We can see the block. It's made up of 5 parts. We've got the timing belt, which is actually nice and thin, and usually I cut these off and replace them with a little bit of masking tape, and it is a little bit on the chunky side, but it's not too bad. So you could even probably get away with that one. Not sure. Might take it off, might not. We'll have to see at the time. But lots of engine components, pipe work. We've got the handbrake, steering wheel, which has got all the little finger points on the back. I'm sure there's a name for them. All sorts of little bits and pieces here. Some of them fairly delicate, in fairness. Again, all crisp, minimum cleanup on them, and we're not really seeing any seam, even on these round parts that you'd expect them to be full of seam lines and stuff, but it's very light on the seam. I mean, you can tell by looking at the sprue, there is a seam on it, but it is very, very light. Sprue E and sprue F are connected, and you get 2 sets of these, and you can see that it's dealing with things like we've got the other suspension parts here. We've got more connecting rods and various small bits and pieces. Again, it's difficult to know what some of these are. Some of the boxes that go underneath the cab there, we can see parts for the gun. So we've got this beautifully done spring. Look at that. That is a work of art. Yeah, very, very nice. We've got a nicely done seat there for the gun emplacement, and that's the seat back, I think. And lovely moulded box there. I mean, it is so well done. There is no sink. There's a little bit of release agent I'm seeing in places, so they'll need a good wash. Shovels, they're okay. They're not amazing. Yeah, but that is lovely, that spring, and that's going to go over the gun, so it's a very prominent feature. I think the detail level is lovely. I mean, look at this, for example. You've got tiny little fastener heads on there. Like I say, I'll take some close-up photos, but yeah, nothing wrong with that. Another sprue H, which was in a different bag because it's connected to sprue G. So that's interesting, but that we've seen all of that before, but we haven't seen the sprue G, which has got the gun barrel on it, which appears to be plugged. So I think this must be the spare barrel that's being carried on the vehicle, which should be why it's plugged, is my guess. And that looks like we've got the headlamps there, which are nicely done, and we've got a towing hook, and I think that is the gun end actually, so that might go on the end of there, and then you've got an open gun. Yeah, I'm correcting myself. So that's the gun flare at the end, which again is nicely moulded. Yeah, lovely that. Sprue A now, and we've got some of the larger parts on here. So this is our bulkhead for the engine and the cab, and we can see dials are all moulded into place there. We've got all sorts of body parts, again with lots of really nice rivet and fastener detail. We've got what looks like our bonnet in the closed position. I thought we had photo etch for that though, but have to consult the instructions again. This is our main cab base. Everything gets built onto there. We've got our chassis components. There's a little bit of work to be done to clean those up, but it's mainly just ejector pins. We've got our engine compartment sides with a nice grille detail and moulded in fastener detail, and this will be our sides for the back of the vehicle. We've got the floor pan mounting point for the gun. Yeah, I mean, look at the level of detail. It's just exquisite. It is very, very nice. Okay, sprue D is our last sprue of parts, and this is almost exclusively focused on the gun placement, the Bofors. We've got the main body of the gun here, and lots of components for it. The electric box with termination points. It's really nice. All sorts of bits and pieces here. Parts of the plate, side pieces. This is, you can see where we build up the floor plate for it. Lots and lots of detail on this. I doubt, I mean, look at that. I doubt there is a single rivet they've missed on this model. It is so nicely detailed. Tread plate is really nice as well. Yeah, absolutely love this. Right, I will take some photos. Let's sum up, and then I'll leave you with some close-ups of the kit parts. So there you have it, the Thunder Model 1:35 scale Morris Bofors C9B late. As they say, the iconic British World War II gun truck. What is my first impression? Well, I think that is a stunning little kit and a really, really interesting subject. Let's start with the positives. We've got a very well moulded kit with some nice detail. Lots and lots of rivet detail has been captured. And you've got some really lovely detail on that spring, for example, and plenty of photo etch to add scale effects where needed. Another plus is that they've given you plenty of decals, so you've got all the decals for the ammunition boxes, which they easily could have omitted. And they've given you options for the stabilizer feet being deployed or folded away for travel. So a really nicely thought through kit. And I have to say, I thought it looked really nice. There was no issues with the plastic at all, with the plastic parts. A little bit of seam removal here and there, but even that wasn't too heavy. So it should go together really quite quickly. The negatives, the clear parts could have been better, to be honest. And the instructions could be broken down a little bit more clearly and more clearly marked. You've not got markings for the sub-assemblies, and that could be confusing for some modelers, particularly newer modelers that perhaps aren't as familiar with working through instructions. So one or two little niggles, but in the main, you've got a stunning kit, really high quality. They've put resin wheels in there, which is gonna really up the game and save you a load of time, and makes it easier for painting and weathering. And I think this will look great as a standalone display piece, or indeed as part of a diorama. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these at some of the model shows. And in fact, I'm really looking forward to building this. But I always say that, don't I? But yeah, this is a lovely little thing. And yeah, if you were considering it and were possibly in the market for it, you now know what you get in the box. It's a typical Thunder model offering. It's high quality, should go together well. I think it's beautiful. There you go. You have my take on it. Thanks for looking in. You enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon.